I'm Kim Hammer. I'm asking for your vote in the Republican runoff election for Secretary of State. Here's what you should know about me. Husband, father, grandfather, pastor for 47 years, as well as a hospice chaplain, small business owner, one of the most conservative members of the state legislature, aligned with President Trump's agenda to secure our elections from fraud. Okay, now wait a minute. Hold the fort. President Trump says the voting machines are not safe. President Trump's director of national intelligence says the voting machines can be hacked. But Kim Hammer says, y'all don't know what you're talking about. The voting machines are just fine. They're just wonderful. And now he's out here saying, I'm a pastor and I'm aligned with President Trump's agendas to secure our elections from fraud. What does it mean to be aligned with President Trump's agenda? Is that the same thing as supporting President Trump's agenda? Because he certainly doesn't seem to be doing that. I mean, aligned with? I'm a pastor. I want you to think I support President Trump's agenda to secure our elections from fraud. But President Trump says we got to get rid of the voting machines. And I'm saying you're ridiculous for questioning them, regardless of the fact they read barcodes, regardless of the fact they're owned by an out-of-state company and we're not allowed to know who owns the company. But I'm a pastor, so you can trust me. You hate to call somebody a lying pastor. What? No, that does not rhyme with anything. I said lying pastor. Pastor. You hate to call somebody that. But goodness sakes, I mean, what am I supposed to think? Now, Brian Norris is the actual patriot who wants secure elections, who's running for Secretary of State. And he finished in first place in the primary. And so there's a runoff. And I found it fascinating because I didn't know until the end of my interview with him the other day that the lady who was a close third endorsed Brian Norris. But now, like I say, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders is endorsing Kim Hammer out there on Twitter, on X, not on Facebook. Because the pushback she get from Arkansans on Facebook, she didn't want to look bad. So she threw Kim a bone and endorsed him over there on X because, as you probably know by now, the majority of people in Arkansas are not on Twitter or X, as the case may be. I would not be surprised if a majority of Arkansans are on Facebook. I'll never forget what a friend of mine told me. He had a chance to get on the ground floor to invest in Facebook when it was just in the planning stages. And he said, nope, Americans are never going to allow that invasion of their privacy. They don't want to put all their business out there for everybody to see. And he told me a couple of years ago, boy, was I ever wrong. Yes. It's your, 50th anniversary high school reunion, this time and date. Or look at what my 2 and 3 year old grandkids are doing. Or this is my favorite recipe. Or here's how I do my gardening. Or, it's just one thing after another. We're so proud of our young ladies just graduated from high school, and here are all the pictures of the high school graduation, whatever it is. Everybody puts everything out there on Facebook. No, I wasn't saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that my friend who said he had an opportunity to invest in it early on made basically the wrong prediction, that Americans are very private people and they don't want to put their business all out there. And he's just kicking himself like, what did I know? Anyway, Um, so Facebook is a very attractive platform for a lot of folks, regardless of whether they live in the South or the Midwest or the West or the Northeast, whatever, regardless of whether they live in big cities or rural areas, regardless of whether they're conservative or liberal or just don't pay attention, they all get on Facebook. I'll never forget Rush Limbaugh was saying about 15 years ago that young people were getting off of Facebook and going to other platforms because their parents or their grandparents or their aunts or their uncles or whatever just driving them crazy. They're like, okay, I got to do something else. What else is out there? Oh, Instagram. Oh, I'll try that. You know, nobody remembers MySpace at this point. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that, the Kim Hammer, maybe something just occurred to me. Okay, Kim's born and raised in Arkansas. Bill Clinton's born and raised in Arkansas. Bill Clinton was the guy who famously said, well, I guess it depends upon the definition the word is. No, seriously, when you think about it, Bill and Hillary Clinton are the first people that I noticed, and a lot of us noticed, parsing their words. It all depends upon how you say things. So Kim Hammer on his mass texting to I don't know how many Arkansans is saying that he is aligned with President Trump's agenda to secure our elections from fraud. Not that he supports the president, he's aligned with it. So I guess in that sense, if you really drill down, you start asking questions, he'll probably say, well, yeah, I don't believe in mail-in balloting. I don't believe in illegals voting in our elections. I think we ought to have voter ID. Yeah, but the president's against voting machines, though. Well, now that's where he and I part company. Okay. But you never know it from looking at the text. From looking at the text, you would think he's supporting the president 100%, which is it possible that that's what he wants you to think? Oh, this is interesting. The Babylon Bee is the premier satire website in America. Young Tommy, my producer, you've heard of the Babylon Bee. So they're out there now saying, pardon me, it's a picture of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. Democrats condemn Secretary of War Pete Hegseth for using money to feed soldiers when it could have gone to Somali daycare in Minnesota. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Okay, now wait a minute. What is this? Breaking news from the Fatux network. Never heard of it before, but they got 133,000 followers on X. Norwegian police have arrested 3 brothers suspected of carrying out the terror bombing outside the U.S. Embassy in Oslo. And my old buddy Jesse Kelly, world-renowned, nationally syndicated radio talk show host out of Houston, says, I wonder what part of Norway the 3 brothers suspected of carrying out the terror bombing. I wonder what part of Norway they're from. No, it's a feeble attempt at humor. They're not from Norway. They probably they probably immigrated from Somalia or someplace like that. Oh, Abby Phillip, CNN. Abby Phillip from CNN says, I want to correct something I said last night. The bombs thrown in New York City over the weekend by ISIS-inspired attackers was thrown? No, were thrown. You need to correct your grammar, Abby. Were thrown into a crowd of anti-Muslim protesters and not specifically targeted at Mayor Mamdani. That wording was inaccurate, and I didn't catch it ahead of time. I apologize for the error. Well, now the problem with that, as the great Sage Steele points out, host of the Sage Steele Show on YouTube with more than 500,000 followers on X, she says, just stop, Abby Phillip. You are literally reading from the teleprompter, which means you saw it ahead of time, and it was seen and vetted by at least one other CNN producer, boss, etc., if not more. Inexcusable and predictable. One of the things I learned about CNN years and years ago, over 35 years ago, way before there was Fox News and Newsmax or OAN or anything else, is that if they say something that's not true and then later issue a retraction, a lot of the people who saw the original comment have no idea that later they issued a retraction because they're no longer watching. And social media doesn't change that, does it? No, it does not change it at all. So we've okay, here we go. This is more recent breaking news. 3 brothers arrested in Norway for throwing a bomb on the U.S. Embassy last week in Norway are Iraqi asylum seekers. Oh, I get it. Well, I mean, how liberal a country is Norway anyway? I mean, would that get them a better chance of getting asylum in Norway? Well, we threw a bomb at the U.S. Embassy. I mean, you guys should welcome us to open arms, right? Norway's a pretty liberal country, isn't it? Oh, wait. So Will McDuffie on X says, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro says he called New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani to check in on him and his wife to make sure they're doing okay after Saturday's alleged ISIS-inspired attack near their home. But senior CNN reporter Edward Isaac Dover says Governor Shapiro last called Mamdani last year to express concern over the now mayor's comments on Israel and anti-Semitism. The conversation with now a fellow target of political violence was a different type of call. Bonchi, my buddy over at Red State, says Edward Isaac Dover is a senior CNN reporter. They're just going to keep lying about this. Yeah, because he was not a target of political violence. The people protesting against him were the targets of political violence. And CNN knows that, but they're just gonna keep on lying. Well, that's a shame. Wait. Ted Cruz out there on the Blaze, embedded video saying, I believe Tucker Carlson is the single most dangerous demagogue in this country. Jack Posobiec, now the guy who keeps on claiming what a great friend he was of Charlie Kirk, but won't stand up for his grieving widow. Jack Posobiec says there was an ISIS bombing in New York City just 2 days ago. And again, my buddy Bonchi at Red State says, Jack Posobiec not knowing what the word demagogue means isn't surprising. But notice how quick he is to pop off at Ted Cruz while he hasn't said a word about Tucker, who has directly claimed Islamic terrorism is not an issue and that anti-Islamic sentiment is actually some kind of a foreign op. Yeah. By the way, a big thank you to Burt Macklin, who just went to the dictionary and came up and did a screenshot on the definition of the word demagogue, a political leader who seeks support by appealing to the desires and prejudices of ordinary people rather than by using rational argument. Yep. So I don't know how to break it to you. And I hope you're sitting down. But you know how maybe sometime in your life somebody has lied to you in real life. I mean, that's happened, right? Well, see, here's the shock, and a lot of people don't realize this. It's also possible for people to lie to you on social media. I mean, I see stuff on Facebook all the time. Made up stuff on Facebook with hundreds of responses. Serves them right. You tell them. Or, well, daggum, get the heck out of here then. Either way, it doesn't matter if you're a conservative or a liberal. The liberals will hate what the conservatives love, or the conservatives will hate what the liberals love, but the original post on Facebook isn't true. And I'm like, y'all, you know what? There's enough real stuff for us to disagree on. For real. Now, young Tommy, my producer on the other side of the glass, he's shaking his head yes, like, because, we talk about real stuff to disagree on the regular. So, I mean, we'll know what it is. Okay, I'll tell you all what it is. I'll tell you all what it is because you're probably wondering. Because sometimes I see people say, now, wait a minute. I've seen that same quote that's supposed to have been said by 5 or 6 different people. Why are y'all lying? Because eventually people are like, there's no way that 5 or 6 different people said the same quote, this whole paragraph. I've seen this attributed to other people. I'll tell you if you want to know. I'll tell you why they're lying. It's because they make money if they get enough reaction. It's called engagement farming. They're looking for people to engage with them, and they don't care. They do not care whether the reaction is positive or negative. Whether the reaction is, you tell them, God bless the USA, or the reaction is, I hate you, whatever. Either way, if they get enough clicks, they make money because they take advantage of what's called confirmation bias. Now, the confirmation bias, what that is, and I'm not looking at a definition, I'll just tell you the Washburn paraphrase. Confirmation bias is we believe that this happened, or we believe that this person said this because it wouldn't surprise us if it were true. It's in fitting with what we're used to. So we never stop to think, gee, I wonder if this is being made up because there's no link proving that this guy actually said this or. So people actually believed that Rob Reiner, when he was still alive, said if Trump got reelected, he was going to set himself on fire. People actually believed that Bono of U2 said that if Trump was reelected, he was going to literally jump off a cliff. Because we've seen people like Rosie O'Donnell or Ellen DeGeneres say that they're going to leave the country, and they left the country. So it wouldn't surprise people if Rob Reiner said this or Bono of U2 said that, but they didn't. But if you try telling people, well, there's no evidence that this person said this, then they get angry with you. What are you, some daggum libtard? And I'm like, you might want to check my timeline. I don't think I qualify for being a daggum libtard. Just so you know. But I just get upset with people who lie about things. Isn't the truth bad enough sometimes? I'll never forget. You ever heard of Dave Ramsey? Dave Ramsey is a guy who's been on the radio for over 25 years and written a lot of books and done a lot of seminars, live stream seminars that churches tend to run because he had a strong, positive Christian message and everything about getting out of debt. So a while back, somebody put his picture and a quote on social media, and it was like real political. Well, Dave doesn't tend to get real political. I mean, I'm sure he votes Republican and he's conservative and he's a free market capitalist and all that kind of stuff. But I said to whoever, I don't think Dave Ramsey said that. Do you have any proof he said that? What difference does it make? Because it's true. Okay, I didn't say the words weren't true. But why doesn't the person who believes those words just go ahead and say it himself or herself instead of tagging Dave Ramsey who didn't say it? Because that means this is a lie if he didn't say it. And people just get all kinds of upset when you say things like that. See, so that's the deal with that. Anyway, it has been revealed that the immigrant parents of one of the New York City bombers, Ibrahim Qayyumi, not only live in a $2 million home, but also have a portfolio worth $4.2 million. They co-own a major franchise and own 5 additional homes across the Bucks County, Pennsylvania area. So, again, I watched Fox the other day, and they're like, well, what can we do to prevent people from just rolling into New York City from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, or wherever, and trying to blow people up? Well, I don't think you can. So what you need to do is make sure everybody is carrying so they can shoot the bad guys. See, the shame here is that hardly anybody in New York City is allowed to have a gun. So when these 2 young fellas tried to blow up everybody, nobody could just shoot them. That's the shame of it all. Because I'm thinking, well, what's his face? Jason Aldean said, try that in a small town. Probably not going to go too well. Anyway, we got a lot of audio we need to share with you, and the governor said some interesting and unusual things, as is her wont, so we'll get to that. Doc Washburn Show continues on Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1, The Answer.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Iran has attacked commercial ships and targeted Dubai International Airport. The latest attacks on Wednesday mark an escalation in its campaign to bottle up the oil-rich Persian Gulf as American and Israeli airstrikes pound the Islamic Republic. President Trump toured an Ohio pharmaceutical company on Wednesday as part of a push by his administration to lower drug prices. He's using the same trip to visit a nearby Kentucky district of a Republican in Congress he'd like to see defeated in an upcoming GOP primary. Major storms whipped up tornadoes that killed at least 2 people in northwest Indiana and leveled buildings in Kankakee, Illinois. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 289 points, the Nasdaq rose 19, the S&P declined 5. More details at srnnews.com.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I had a lot of credit card debt, and it stressed me out. But what I thought was a solution turned out to be a problem. I kept hearing ads about debt settlement that seemed too good to be true. And actually, it was. When I called, they told me to stop paying my bills. That didn't sound right to me at all, so I hung up. Later, I found out that debt settlement is bad, real bad. Then I learned that there is a right way to pay off your credit cards. It's called a debt management program from the great team at Trinity. Trinity had a plan. In the end, I paid off my bills, I saved thousands, and I even improved my credit score.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-936-5496.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-936-5496.
If you owe back taxes, listen carefully to rule number 1. Never go up against the IRS alone. They're cracking down, freezing bank accounts, garnishing paychecks, canceling passports. Even your home or business could be at risk. But here's what they don't tell you. The IRS has powerful tax relief programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. That's why smart people call Optima Tax Relief America's #1 tax resolution firm. Nobody knows these programs like the experts at Optima. Their team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $2 billion in tax debt for people just like you. The IRS is not stopping, so don't wait and don't take them on alone. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, call Optima today for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
The more you listen to your kids, the closer you'll be. So we asked kids, what do you want your parents to hear?
I feel sometimes that I'm not listened to. I would just want you to listen to me more often and evaluate situations with me and lead me towards success.
We're not adults, so just be there and listen. I just want someone to yap to. And I just feel like I'll be fine if someone just hears me talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
You're doing a really good job. And I don't think I tell you that enough. And I know sometimes we get into it and it's just hard on both of us. But try to understand me more and I'll try to do the same.
Listening is a form of love. Find resources to help you support your kids and their emotional well-being at sounditouttogether.org. That's sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal.
.1, The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. Now, I don't read the Arkansas Times as a rule. It's a left-wing rag that tends to be in little paper boxes in front of restaurants, and very few people pick it up. But anyway, somebody sent me an article from the Arkansas Times from yesterday. Sarah Sanders chews over a presidential run. Seriously. And here's how it goes. As the first guest on a new Politico video podcast, Arkansas Governor Sarah Sanders admitted she's bandied about the idea of getting herself back to D.C., but in the boss's seat this time. Sanders gave an interview at Wright's Barbecue in Little Rock. Buddy, I love that place. Young Tommy, you been there yet? I love that place. Anyway, Sanders gave an interview at Wright's Barbecue in Little Rock for the first episode of On the Road with Jonathan Martin, this new video podcast series over at Politico. The new series aims to mix business and pleasure, with journalist Jonathan Martin lobbing mostly softballs to politicians over plates of local fare. This is not, speaking of local fare, this is not fair. Y'all just make me hungry now. And they got the link. You can watch the Sanders video or just read the condensed transcript of their flirty exchange here. Come on now. She is happily married. I don't think she's flirting with some liberal reporter. Give me a break. I'm sure that people watching the Facebook live stream were like, well, Doc defending Governor Sanders was not on my bingo card today. Well, it wasn't on my bingo card either, but I mean, words have meanings. Okay? So, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Anyway, here's how Politico describes it. In the first episode, Martin and Governor Sanders Covered everything from the U.S. strike on Iran and her father's contentious interview with Tucker Carlson to her own presidential prospects and whether she used to sneak out of the governor's mansion as a teenager. What? And they do so over brisket, ribs, and mac and cheese that Sanders, a self-proclaimed mac and cheese connoisseur, says can't be beat. Now, I'm just going to say something about that. I'm just going to say something. I'm not a big mac and cheese fan, but I'm a big fan of everything I've had at Wright's Barbecue, including the mac and cheese. And I just put that out there. No, I better not say anything else because they're going to be upset. I can't do a free commercial for anybody, but it's not my fault that they did the video interview at Wright's Barbecue, okay? Because I can rhapsodize about the wonders of that restaurant for eons. But anyway, Arkansas Times says there's not much breaking news to be found here. Although Sanders did own up to keeping her name in the hat to be a Republican nominee for president. Now, where is that hat? She's keeping her name in the hat to be a Republican nominee for president? Where is this proverbial hat we're hearing about? I mean, because if you're keeping your name in a hat, that means that I think by implication, your name was already in the hat and you don't want to remove it from the hat. How did her name get in this hat? What am I missing here? We'll let that saute for a minute and I'll come back to it. In 2028, 2032, she couldn't be pinned down on the timeline. To be fair, breaking news isn't the point here. The show is more of a pleasant chat to humanize public figures and highlight their hometowns with no real risk of indigestion for the interviewer or interviewee. Sanders waxed poetic about her rowdy high school days living in the governor's mansion, gave some Excuse me? Rowdy? Okay, fine, whatever. Gave some kudos to the Royal Waltons of Arkansas. Oh, they're big libs, so I'm sure she loves them. I'm staring at the camera for all my Facebook live stream friends. Said some nice stuff about Bill Clinton. Of course she did. She was so thrilled to have Bill and Hillary at the governor's mansion back in November after the filing period was over. Oh, yeah. I'm not surprised. She said nice stuff about Bill Clinton. Of course, I've seen the Clinton death list, and I know how many people associated with the Clintons died very mysteriously, but I guess someone has kept that from Sarah. What do you mean she wouldn't care? Hey, calm down. We're talking about the governor here. And she gave a shout out to the Hope Watermelon Festival before turning to grittier topics. You can watch as Governor Sanders falls easily back into her role as President Donald Trump's staunchest defender. Oh, no. Honey, please. Sarah was not Donald Trump's staunchest defender. If she was Donald Trump's staunchest defender, she wouldn't be fighting him so hard in the voting machines. But this is a guy reporting for the Arkansas Times, Austin Gelder, so he wouldn't have any idea what I'm talking about because liberal reporters don't tend to have much intellectual curiosity, just between you and me. And I don't want that leaving these four walls. Keep that on the down low. She effortlessly batted away Jonathan Martin's question about why Trump, who ran on a pledge to not start wars, has been busy starting wars. She said, I'm proud and thankful that we have a president that actually stands up for the safety and security of our country, insisting somehow that Trump isn't starting a war, but ending one. Insisting somehow. Okay, here's the deal. The Ayatollahs and the mullahs have been at war with us since 1979, and we're sick and tired of it, sick and tired of the fact that they killed over 1,000 Americans, and we're determined to bring an end to this 47-year war. Insisted somehow that Trump isn't starting a war, but ending one? Bunch of libs. Are y'all going to make me defend Governor Sanders all day? Come on. Give me a break. Because the truth is the truth. And if she's speaking the truth, which she just did right there, then, and you guys have a problem with it, that's on you. While a lovely tray of food sits on the table in front of Martin and Sanders for the duration of the interview, none of it gets consumed on camera. Well, see, that's something I learned from Rush Limbaugh. When you're a politician doing an interview at a restaurant, you're not supposed to eat because it looks unseemly. Okay, so Arkansas Times says, we have an idea for Martin should he want to spice up future episodes or maybe mix it up should he come back around for a second season. Consider a Hot Ones style mashup next time with politicians answering questions as they endure hot wings dunked in increasingly spicy sauces. Ratings gold. I guess that passes for humor with liberals. I don't know. I don't think it's funny, but you know what do I know. So here's the deal with the idea that Governor Sanders is keeping her name in the hat for the Republican nomination for president. Here's the deal. Right now, looking at 2028, it looks like either J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio. And I know that November 2028 is a long way away, and the primaries of early 2028 are also a long way away. But I'll just tell you something. People tend to vote for folks who are very compelling on TV. And I go back 50 years now. I go back 50 years. In 1976, America voted for Jimmy Carter over Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford just had the personality of an oak tree, and Jimmy Carter had the flashy smile, and people thought, oh, let's get away from Watergate. Let's go with this new guy. By 1980, Jimmy Carter was a sourpuss, looking very dour. And Ronald Reagan, an actor, by the way, was out there talking about morning in America. And people were like, yeah, let's dump Carter. Let's go with this Reagan guy. And he took 49 states in 1984 because Mondale, again, had no personality, and people liked what Reagan was doing with the economy, and they liked Reagan. 1988, George H.W. Bush beat Dukakis. Again, not only he didn't come across as well as Reagan did, but people wanted a third Reagan term. And he certainly came across better than Dukakis, who was stupid enough to take that video with a little helmet on in a tank, looking like a cartoon character. So in 1992, Ross Perot worked with the Democrats because he hated George H.W. Bush. And so a majority of people either voted for Ross Perot or Bill Clinton. And George H.W. Bush, all he could think about was he had promised he wasn't going to raise taxes, and he raised taxes. And Bill Clinton had studied video of Reagan. Now, he couldn't do the voice, but he could certainly do the mannerisms. And it worked. Clinton came across real well on TV in 92 and 96. In 96, we were stupid enough to say, well, it's Bob Dole's turn. So elect a guy who does not come across well on TV. Stop lying about my wall records, eh? Sure, a wise guy. Why I oughta. People didn't want that. And so in the debate, Bill Clinton could kind of tilt his head to the side just like Reagan did and say something like, well, Bob, there you go again. And people are like, okay, another 4 years of Clinton. Now, plenty of people who voted for Clinton twice in 2000 saw Al Gore, who really had the personality of an oak tree. George W. Bush was warm and came across well on TV. When Al Gore went on the Oprah show, he looked really nervous to be anywhere close to a black person, whereas George W. Bush like, here, give me a hug. And people were like, okay, yeah, this George W. Bush guy, he's pretty good. And he got reelected in 2004 because the Democrats were stupid enough to nominate a guy named John Kerry. I fought in Vietnam. People are like, yeah, who's Lurch over here? Who's the Frankenstein monster? Let's go with W again. In 2008, Barack Obama, very telegenic, very photogenic, up against McCain. We're stupid enough, again, to nominate McCain because it was his turn. Barack Obama's a decent American. See? People are like, who's the hunchback? Let's vote for the black guy and say we're not racist anymore. 2012, Mitt Romney was too slick for people. And the third debate against Obama, he was talking about how similar he was to Obama. And people were like, well, if I wanted Obama, just vote for the real thing. I don't want Obama light. You know what happened in 2016? Trump was, again, very telegenic, knew how to use TV. Hillary is the most unlikable candidate in forever. So Trump soundly thrashed her. And Trump, I believe, of course, won 2020, and it was stolen by Biden. There's no way in the world Weekend at Bernie's actually beat Trump. And then again, thank God, it was Trump against Kamala, who was just an idiot in 2024. Now, why do I say all that to talk about Sarah Sanders thinking she can run for president? Well, I'll tell you in a minute, but I'm running late for a break. The Doc Washburn Show continues. 101.1 The Answer.
I want to make the world turn around, make the world turn around, make the world turn around.
What if you could take 101.1 The Answer with you everywhere? You can. Download the 101.1 The Answer app and stay connected to the voices you trust, live and on demand. Wake up with Dave Ellswick. Stay sharp with Doc Washburn. And hear from national voices like Chris DeGaulle, Scott Jennings, Hugh Hewitt, Larry Elder, and Mike Gallagher. Breaking news, bold opinions, local insight, national perspective, all in one place, all in your pocket, at work, in the car, on the go. If it matters to Arkansas and America, you'll hear it on 101.1 The Answer. Plus, stream us live anywhere. Catch up on podcasts and never miss a moment. Search 101.1 The Answer in your app store and download it today. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Did you hear Congressman French Hill on the Dave Ellswick Show?
To the bottom of how we can reduce the waste, fraud, and abuse at HUD, increase the oversight of public housing agencies around the country, which will produce better housing results, safer conditions than our tenants across the country are seeing, including right here in Little Rock, where we've had, and North Rock, where we've had just recently, catastrophic outcomes in the Section 8 voucher tenant rental program with bad landlords that are not properly being overseen by the Housing Authority or HUD. How do these landlords get repeatedly approved for accepting federal HUD voucher programs when they offer terrible housing conditions and the worst sort of oversight? And that situation over near Shorter College last year that their Hardwick dealt with was just horrific. It is a management issue and a capital expenditure issue. And does the federal government, through the Section 8 program, is it even functioning right?
Don't miss Congressman Hill, Wednesday mornings at 7 on the Dave Ellswick Show, 101.1 The Answer.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council. We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
When I met both of them, it was like my missing pieces were found. Like it was just like an instant, these are my kids. If you're considering adopting a teen, just do it. Kids need families. I don't care the age. Everybody deserves a family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, where you can sound off and talk back. 501-401-1011. So, Sarah Huckabee Sanders hinting to a reporter at Politico that she's keeping her name in the hat for the Republican nomination for president, but won't say which year. And it's my job to tell you why that's never going to work. Anybody remember a guy named Scott Walker? He was governor of Wisconsin and very successful governor, conservative Republican, got a lot done. Anybody remember the name Bobby Jindal? He was governor of Louisiana. Both of them just brilliant, and both of them very successful, had accomplished a lot at a young age. Now, somehow, a campaign consultant, somebody who does this for a living, got in Scott Walker's ear, another campaign consultant got in Bobby Jindal's ear, and firmly persuaded each one of them that they could successfully run for the Republican nomination for president in 2016. Now, there were like 16 people going for the nomination, and these two guys were relegated to the kiddie table. You can only put 10 people on the stage. And Trump was the tallest, so he was in the middle, and you had Rubio, who was nowhere near that, and you had Cruz and Rand Paul, all these different people, Huckabee. But Scott Walker, very successful governor of Wisconsin, and Bobby Jindal, very successful governor of Louisiana, never stood a chance. Because on television, they had no personality. They didn't come across. They weren't compelling. It didn't matter that either one of them might have been a fantastic president. It didn't matter that either one of them had a very high IQ and probably had a really good idea what to do if they ever got elected. They're not going to get anywhere near the nomination because they're just lifeless on TV, and you either have it or you don't have it. So, where do you think I'm going with this? Compared to Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance or Ron DeSantis or some of these guys I was talking about from U.S. House yesterday, Sarah just doesn't have the personality. She just doesn't come across on television. If there were no term limits in Arkansas, she could probably be governor for the rest of her life. Because she's got the name recognition, she's got the money, she probably keep doing this. She may be able to run for U.S. Senate when John Bozeman retires and, get that. But president is like going to the major leagues. It's like going to the NFL, the NBA. You can be great in college football, basketball, or baseball, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be great in the pros. That's the analogy. If I may use a sports analogy, present company. So, again, you could be great in college baseball and minor league baseball, but once you get up to the show and you're up against major league hitting, and you've never seen a curveball like that before, well, it's different. Sarah does not want to be on a debate stage with J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio and Ron DeSantis. Trust me on that. It's just not happening. So, whatever. She can say whatever she wants. But, no, we don't even have to talk about the political side of it. I'm just talking about coming across on TV. But you're right. How in the world would she be able to get a Republican Congress to go along with her if the last session of the state legislature, she ran a bill 5 times to try to get that $1 billion prison done in Franklin County. And with a supermajority of Republicans, couldn't get it done with her own party. She doesn't have the track record of knowing how to work with folks in the legislature. So that definitely wouldn't work as president with Congress. But people won't be thinking about that. People will be choosing whoever comes across the best on TV. And of course, that was Trump for the Republican nomination, 2016, 2020, 2024. He has that it factor, whatever you want to call it. Just like all successful nominees have had, except for when the Republicans decide, oh, we got to give it to Dole in 96 or McCain in 2012. McCain in 2008 or Romney in 2012 because it's his turn. Yeah, but what if he can't beat the Democrat nominee? I said it's his turn. I hope we learned from that when the outsider took everything by storm in 2016. I hope we did. But I don't know. The Republicans in the Senate are fighting Trump right now on that Save America Act, and it's a big, big mess. Not all of them, but enough of them, including the majority leader. All right, I'm Doc Washburn. We'll try to get as much breaking news as we can in the next hour on 101.1 The Answer.
It's the hardest thing to do with all I said, all for you.
On Salem News Channel, principled voices are shaping today's conversation. Scott Jennings brings clarity to the toughest debates. Josh Hammer's blistering commentary puts politics and culture on trial. And Alex Marlowe's insight connects us to what matters most. Watch anytime on Samsung TV Plus, Pluto TV, or find us on your screen at snc.tv. 3 new shows, 1 powerful lineup. Salem News Channel, across America.
There's a real battle going on, not only for our future, but that of our children and grandchildren. How do we ensure they have it better than we do? One way is to keep listening to us. We're your information source in the battle. 101.1, The Answer. Something big is happening, and you need to be in the know. Operation Epic Fury is here, and the only place to get all the details. Stay tuned and listen closely for updates on Operation Epic Fury on 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Find us at 1011fmtheanswer.com. Download our app, stream us 24/7, or watch us at snc.tv. KDXE, Kamek Village, Little Rock.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. There's an international move to release oil reserves to help tamp down high prices and limited supply.
Germany and Austria say they are releasing parts of their oil reserves following an International Energy Agency request for its members to release 400 million barrels to help temper energy price spikes due to the Iran war. Previously, the largest ever collective release of emergency stocks by IEA member countries was just under 183 million barrels. That was in the wake of the energy shock prompted by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Japan also says it will release some of its reserves starting Monday. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Documents show that the UK's Keir Starmer was warned about appointing Peter Mandelson to a key U.S. post.
Documents released by the British government show officials believed there was a reputational risk to appointing Peter Mandelson as the US ambassador because of his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The concerns were raised in a document sent to Prime Minister Keir Starmer in December 2024 before he appointed Mandelson to the role, seen as vital to establish a good relationship with the administration of President Donald Trump. The documents also spelled out other reputational issues over Mandelson's work in a previous Labour government related to financial matters, including high-profile donors and his work at Global Council. I'm Charles Philadelphia.
President Trump is visiting Ohio and Kentucky as he tries to steady voters' concerns about the economy and to derail the re-election bid of a Republican rival. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 289 points, the Nasdaq rose 19, the S&P declined 5. More at townhall.com.
Let me paint a picture for you. It's midnight and sirens are blaring and you only have seconds to grab your child and run. Now, imagine you're elderly, getting downstairs, and after all of that, you end up in a bomb shelter for hours, even days, because you just can't make that trek up again. That's what's happening across Israel as Operation Epic Fury continues. Children are being traumatized, families are exhausted, homes have been destroyed. That's why the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is there. Because as Israel continues to be under attack, its people on the ground are just trying to survive. The fellowship is bringing life-saving aid and emergency supplies to the most vulnerable. If you've ever wondered what it looks like to stand with Israel and stand for good against evil, this is it. This is the time. Join Christians around the world in praying for Israel and her people, and for the brave troops putting their lives on the line in this battle between good and evil. Stand in prayer by visiting supportifcj.org. That's supportifcj.org.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
Most U.S. stocks fell, but the market remained calm. Even as the price of oil got back to rising, the S&P 500 slipped 1/10 for a second day of modest moves following what had been a wild stretch caused by the war with Iran. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 0.6%. The Nasdaq Composite edged up 0.1%. Oracle limited Wall Street's losses after it jumped following a strong profit report. The Dow lost 289 points today, finishing at 47,417. The Nasdaq gained 19 points to 22,716. The S&P 500 dropped 5 points to 6775. Treasury yields rose today. With the Wall Street Business Report, I'm John Scott.
News and analysis at townhall.com. There's a new way crime is being tackled in South Africa.
South Africa has deployed troops to Johannesburg to tackle organized crime. That comes after the president announced plans last month to use the army to help police fight gang violence and illegal mining. South Africa has high rates of violent crime. Police reported an average of nearly 70 homicides a day from October to December of 2025 for a country of around 62 million people. Soldiers were seen in the suburbs of Johannesburg in the first major deployment since the president said in his annual speech to the nation that organized crime was the greatest threat to South Africa's democracy and its economic development. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Italy's culture ministry says the government has bought a rare portrait by Baroque painter Caravaggio for 30 million euros, one of the largest investments ever for a single artwork. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Wesley is a truck driver.
I drive a truck, and I love what I do.
A truck driver with IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Quite a few letters in the mail. They were talking about wage garnishment coming after my house, my car. Yeah, they don't play around. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
One sleepless night, Wesley finally made a call to Optima Tax Relief at 2 a.m.
Kind of figured I'd get a machine, but I didn't. I actually got to talk to an actual person in the middle of the night.
He found just what he was looking for.
Oh, they were great people. You need a team of people that know what they're doing. Optima Tax, they know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Happy don't even come close. I was absolutely overjoyed.
Take Wesley's advice.
If you're in any kind of trouble with the IRS, call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit Optima.
Live from Little Rock, Doc Washburn. It's fun when they let me out to go talk to people.
He's like the adorable puppy, you know. He chews on your Christian Louboutins, but somehow you still love him.
They say I'm a distinguished radio talk show.
No insult intended. The news you don't get anywhere else. Doc Washburn.
It's good to be able to get out of the studio so that I can actually kiss hands and shake babies.
You just can't make this stuff up.
As we say here in the natural state, y'all come see us.
You better watch what you say, or you might just find yourself with the lead role.
The Doc Washburn Show. Weekday afternoons 4 to 6.
If I don't lie down and take a nap, I'm going to keel over.
Doc Washburn on 101.1. The Answer.
Can we rock? What's up, Doc? Can we rock?
101.1, The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. You can sound off and talk back. 501-401-1011. The Save America Act, which is designed to keep illegals from voting. Senator Chuck Schumer had this to say about it, and I quote, "It allows ICE to kick tens of billions, with a B, of people off the voter rolls." Okay, now, if we only got 300 million or maybe 330 million people living in the country, why should there be tens of billions of people on the voter rolls? Now, you can say what you want. Oh, slip of the tongue, you meant tens of millions. Still, that's not what he said. He said tens of billions. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there because apparently there are a number of Republicans in the Senate who agree with Schumer. If Majority Leader John Thune wanted to, he could get the Save America Act passed with 50 votes because J.D. Vance, as vice president, is the tiebreaker. If you got a 50-50 vote in the Senate, then the tiebreaker is the vice president. And fortunately, we have a Republican one. But John Thune doesn't want to do that because he can't get 50 votes. There are 53 Republican senators, and at least 4 of them don't want the Save America Act to pass. So he wants to do this deal where you got 60 votes for cloture, and then all 53 Republican senators can say, well, we voted for it. Hey, don't look at me. As opposed to just taking the House's bill and passing with a simple majority. So John Thune, Mitch McConnell, people like that are stabbing us all in the back. Anyway, breaking news from just a little bit earlier this afternoon, President Trump's thoughts on the war with Iran.
You just said it is a little excursion, and you said it is a war. So which one is it?
Well, it's both. It's both. It's an excursion that will keep us out of a war, and the war is going to be. For them, it's a war. For us, it's turned out to be easier than we thought. But think of it, they had thousands of missiles, 8,000 missiles. We got many of them before they got to launch. They have drones all over the place. We got many. Now we're knocking out the drone plants, as you know, we're going fast. They started talking about mines. So we hit 28 mine chips as of this moment, 28. Using the same weapon, the exact same weapon that we use against the drug dealers in the water. We have, as an example, we had tremendous drugs pouring in through the water, through the sea, and now we have almost none. It's down 97% through water. Now we'll do it through land. Land is easier than water.
Okay, now, in the meantime, former Department of Homeland Security acting secretary in the first Trump term, Chad Wolf, was on with Glenn Beck this morning, warning that there is a possibility of a major terrorist attack. Quote, there are over 18,000 terrorists currently inside the United States, unquote. So I'll say again what I said at the end of the show yesterday. Easter's coming. More people tend to be in church on Easter Sunday and Christmas than the rest of the year. I hope that your church has some kind of self-defense plan. If you don't, you should talk to my friend Ed Monk at Last Resort Firearms Training. Because a lot of people have not thought about what would I do if there's some kind of terrorist attack against my house of worship. A lot of people have not thought about that. And listen to me. A few years ago, I was at a seminar conducted by an FBI agent at a church. And this FBI agent lied and lied and lied and lied and said, what you want to do now, if somebody starts shooting, is run away and hide. And the last resort, if the shooter finds you, is to use whatever you can to try to hit him over the head. I'm like, what about just shooting the shooter? Oh, you can if you want, but we don't recommend it because that hardly ever works. Just lied and lied and lied and lied. So, I mean, again, Chad Wolf, former acting secretary of Department of Homeland Security in the first Trump term, telling Glenn Beck this morning, there is a possibility of a major terrorist attack in this country because, quote, there are over 18,000 terrorists currently inside the United States, unquote. All right. Breaking news from this afternoon. 3 illegal aliens from El Salvador busted with Molotov cocktails in New York City. 18-year-old Lorenzo Alvarado Navarrete, 20-year-old Elvis Romero Martinez, 20-year-old Albert Yanis Moran were arrested after a traffic stop on Long Island when multiple Molotov cocktails were found in their car. They are charged with third-degree criminal possession of a weapon. The question is whether they have any connections or any convictions related to MS-13. So, I'm just saying, and I'll say it again what I said yesterday. And again, I hate quoting an obscure song Ronnie Van Sant wrote for Skinner that hardly anybody remembers, but he said all I could do is write about it. So I said yesterday, and this is how I put it on the podcast, and I linked to Facebook. If they hit us again, in other words, if there's another 9/11, voters aren't going to want to put J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio or Sarah Huckabee Sanders in the White House in 2028. They'll want someone like the guy I discussed in the last 17 minutes of the show yesterday, who's in the House right now, but he could wind up in the White House. And of course, as Andy Ogles, U.S. Representative, Republican from Tennessee, who said Islam is not compatible with Western civilization, they all have to go back. He's saying that now, before we get hit. Now, I was disappointed in the comments because everybody's ignoring what I'm saying. And I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, so I'm not going to say the names. But the first comment said, I'm a yes on JD only. Keep Sarah out of any other elected positions. It's like the point is going over your head here. Another one said, what has Sarah done except for take out-of-state money and spend her last years paying it back? She wants voting machines, and Kim Hammer tells me enough, so I will vote Democrat, I guess, if she runs again. Or if she runs again, she's running right now. What? Or VS, I don't know who that is. Anyone, or versus anyone she supports. She's nothing but a spokesman. That is why she speaks well. It is the thinking that is an issue and what voters wanted. Okay, I'm talking about the White House in 2028. I don't know what this guy's talking about. The next one says, when Trump picked Rubio, we all should have seen where this is going. Took me all of 10 seconds, and we did. Again, I'm talking about who Republicans are going to nominate for president in 2028 and why. Next comment. I like Sarah. Seems to me that the people that don't like her is mostly men. Don't like a woman in charge. I mean, reading is fundamental. Oh, and this is good. A young lady responds to her saying, I know plenty of women, myself included, who did not vote for her and will not vote for her. Okay, all right. And then one last one here. There's absolutely no reason someone who is in the House should be in any executive position. I'm sitting here thinking, or you could actually listen to what I said, but hey, you had a First Amendment right as an American to ignore what I'm talking about. And God forbid, but if there's another 9/11, you're just not going to want somebody who's sitting there talking about radical Islam as if there's such a thing. It's Islam. So that's what I'm talking about. And that's why people like Tommy Tuberville or Tim Burchett or Andy Ogles, and there's one guy over in Florida too, I can't remember what his name is, who are actually telling the truth about Islam now and trying to warn people now are going to be taken seriously if they hit us again. And I didn't make Chad Wolf go on with Glenn Beck this morning and say that there's a distinct possibility of a major terrorist act because there are over 18,000 terrorists currently inside the U.S. That wasn't me. That was Chad Wolf, former acting Secretary of Homeland Security. And I'll bet you Tulsi would not disagree with that. I'm just saying. I know we got a lot more audio, but let's do the break and more audio coming up as the Doc Washburn. Is anybody else telling you any of this? Is anybody else telling you any of this anywhere on talk radio? Well, no, Glenn Beck's not on the air in this market, but I think you get the point. All right, more coming up with the Doc Washburn Show, 101.1 The Answer.
What's up, Doc? Can we rock? What's up, Doc? Can we rock? What's up, Doc? Can we rock?
Our Senators John Bozeman and Tom Cotton and Representative Steve Womack are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Did you hear Congressman Bruce Westerman on the Dave Ellswick Show?
Yeah, and I think if I'm reading the president right, we were with him Monday, and I don't see an appetite for us to put boots on the ground in Iran. I don't think the president's going to come out and say one way or the other because that weakens his position to say that. But I see it where he's going to meet the objectives, and then the Iranian people will have the option whether they want to fight for their government or have another despot in there building the regime back. But you make an important observation there, Dave. The Iranians started shooting missiles at their neighbors just like a caged animal or something, just going after anybody that was around. And I think that's really soured the neighboring countries on Iran. So they're in a very bad spot.
Don't miss Congressman Westerman, Wednesday mornings at 7:30 on the Dave Ellswick Show, 101.1 The Answer.
Let's be honest. The National Symphony may not be in his future, but he wanted to try violin. So you said yes because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more about keeping your kids safe in your vehicle at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Concerned about market risk? I'm Ference Toth, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. The S&P 500 valuations are higher than at any time ever recorded in stock market history. This includes 1929 and 1999. Annuities and Your Personal Bank offer unlimited upside with no downside risk. Tune in to the Your Personal Bank Show Saturdays at 1 p.m. or contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. The Your Personal Bank Show Saturdays at 1 p.m. on 101.1 The Answer.
One oh one point one, The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues. Sound off and talk back. 501-401-1011. So, speaking of which, this just dropped a few minutes ago. New York Post. Iran's revenge terror attack plot on California with army of drones revealed in terrifying FBI memo. Okay. Let's take a look. The FBI issued an urgent warning to police officers across California of a potential Iranian drone strike on the Golden State. Tehran was looking at deploying unmanned aircraft on the region as the country reels after the U.S. wiped out its supreme leader last month. That's what the alert is saying from the FBI. The Bureau said in early February, agents had intelligence that drones could be sent from an unidentified vessel off the American coastline. California has the highest concentration of Iranian dissidents in the U.S., up to 500,000, but it's not clear if that was why that particular state would be targeted. The FBI alert said, we recently acquired information that as of early February 26, Iran allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise attack using unmanned aerial vehicles from an unidentified vessel off the coast of the United States homeland, specifically against unspecified targets in California in the event that the U.S. conducted strikes against Iran. Goodness. It added, we have no additional information on the timing, method, target, or perpetrators of this alleged attack. The alert was sent to police departments across the California region, but does not make clear whether specifically, what part of the region specifically could be targeted. The FBI declined to comment when approached by the New York Post. So, now, U.S. waters, you're in U.S. territory if you get within 12 miles of the mainland. So I don't know. Oh, and by the way, just a little bit ago, President Trump was giving a speech in Hebron, Kentucky, and announced that we have won the Iran war. Well, that's good. That's good. Anyway, I'm not up to speed. I'll try to find out about this overnight. Not up to speed about what we do to, as far as national security goes, outside our 12-mile limit, Oh, this is crazy. Okay, this is just in from the independent reporter Shanaka Anselm Pereira. And they got the embedded video here. Just in. Iran just bombed the only country willing to broker its peace. Drones struck the port of Salalah in Oman, March 11th, hitting fuel storage tanks at the MINA petroleum facilities. Fires ignited, then spread. As of tonight, the blaze has consumed most, if not all, oil tanks at the facility, burning into the darkness in a port that was not a military target, not an ally of the United States or Israel, but the neutral mediator that hosted the last diplomatic channel between Washington and Tehran as recently as February 2026. The country of Oman brokered the secret talks that led to the 2013 JCPOA framework. JCPOA was Barack Obama's Iran nuke deal. Oman also hosted the February 2026 nuclear discussions that were the final diplomatic contact before February 28th. When every other Gulf state chose sides, Oman chose neutrality. When Iran needed a phone line to Washington, Oman was the phone line. That phone is now on fire. Iran's response was extraordinary. President Pezeshkian called Oman's Sultan and said the incident would be investigated. Iran's military denied launching attacks on Oman, calling the suggestion a false flag, but the drone signature matches IRGC patterns. The fires are real, the fuel tanks are burning, and no other actor in the region has the capability, the reach, or the motive to strike the Salalah oil facility with the drone systems that hit it. This is the Mosaic doctrine consuming its own creator's diplomacy. The 31 autonomous IRGC provincial commands that operate without central authorization do not consult Tehran's foreign ministry before launching. A commander with coastal access to the Gulf of Oman can strike Salalah without knowing or caring that the Iranian president needs Sultan Haytham's phone line to survive the war. The diplomatic wing of the Iranian state needs Oman alive. The military wing just set its oil tanks on fire. Both wings operate simultaneously without coordination because the doctrine was designed to make coordination unnecessary. That's fascinating. I didn't know that. This is the structural impossibility nobody is modeling. Tomorrow, Larjani or Pezeshkian may call Muscat, the capital of Oman, and beg forgiveness. They may ask Oman to reopen the channel to Washington. They may negotiate in good faith for a ceasefire. And while they're on the phone, an autonomous IRGC command in some part of Iran may launch another drone strike at Salalah oil facility because the sealed orders from a dead supreme leader authorize continuous strikes on Gulf infrastructure, and no living authority has the constitutional power to countermand them. Well, it sounds like they aren't too bright to me. Sounds like they might be getting close to the find out part of the, how do we say it politely, mess around and find out? Wow. More breaking news coming up. Doc Washburn Show continues on Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1, The Answer.
Walk on the ocean, step on the stones.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. The U.S.-Israeli war with Iran has become a test of who endures longer. The biggest pressure point appears to be the global economy as oil prices surge. Iran attacked commercial shipping around the Strait of Hormuz on Wednesday, setting a Thai cargo ship on fire, and Iranian drones also targeted Dubai's airport. The U.S. campaign of airstrikes is now in its 12th day. Major storms whipped up tornadoes that killed at least 2 people in northwest Indiana and leveled buildings in Kankakee, Illinois, authorities said Wednesday, as another round of rain, hail, and strong winds made its way through the region. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 289 points, the Nasdaq rose 19. More details at srnnews.com.
You'll hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now.
800-583-0141.
Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-583-0141. That's 800-583-0141. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council. We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
When I met both of them, it was like my missing pieces were found. Like it was just like an instant, these are my kids. If you're considering adopting a teen, just do it. Kids need families. I don't care the age. Everybody deserves a family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Did you hear Congressman Bruce Westerman on the Dave Ellswick Show?
Yeah, and I think if I'm reading the president right, we were with him Monday, and I don't see an appetite for us to put boots on the ground in Iran. I don't think the president's going to come out and say one way or the other because that weakens his position to say that. But I see it where he's going to meet the objectives, and then the Iranian people will have the option whether they want to fight for their government or have another despot in there building the regime back. But you make an important observation there, Dave. The Iranians started shooting missiles at their neighbors just like a caged animal or something, just going after anybody that was around. And I think that's really soured the neighboring countries on Iran. So they're in a very bad spot.
Don't miss Congressman Westerman, Wednesday mornings at 7:30 on the Dave Ellswick Show, 101.1. The Answer.
101.1 The Answer. Doc Washburn Show continues, or you can sound off and talk back at 501-401-1011. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum. He used to be a governor up in the North Midwest, I think North Dakota. Anyway, he was on Fox and Friends talking to Brian Kilmeade this morning about the oil situation, and it went something like this. If we have it. It was one of those audio clips. Oh, Interior Secretary, this is repeating this for the West Coast audience. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum was on with Brian Kilmeade this morning of Fox and Friends talking about the oil situation.
Mr. Secretary, I'm reading the New York Times today, and they're claiming that you guys were caught by surprise that the price of oil went up. Is that true?
Completely fake news there, obviously. But one thing I would say with President Trump, who's been focused on bringing prices down since the day he took office, affordability has been a central part of this, inheriting these high prices across the board. But whether it's energy prices, prescription drugs, this entire administration has been focused on driving down prices. And the way you do that is with supply up. And of course, under President Trump, U.S. now #1 oil producer in the world, #1 LNG producer and exporter in the world. American citizens need to know that U.S. energy, we've never been in a more dominant or secure position in the history of the country than we are right now with President Trump.
That's pretty strong. Seems like they got their act together. Now, Margaret Brennan, she does that CBS Face the Nation thing. And a lot of people have no idea that she is married to a Muslim who years ago, when he was in law school, did his major paper, I guess master's thesis, talking about how wonderful Sharia law is. She's never going to talk about that. So Margaret Brennan, back October 2024, in the vice presidential debate, claimed, as a matter of fact, that Iran was within a week or two of being able to develop nukes. And we'll play you that before we play you what she said once Trump got in office. So here's Margaret Brennan claiming Iran is close to nukes, October 2024.
Earlier today, Iran launched its largest attack yet on Israel, but that attack failed thanks to joint U.S. and Israeli defensive action. President Biden has deployed more than 40,000 U.S. military personnel and assets to that region over the past year to try to prevent a regional war. Iran is weakened, but the U.S. still considers it the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, and it has drastically reduced the time it would take to develop a nuclear weapon. It is down now to 1 or 2 weeks' time. Governor Walz, if you were the final voice in the Situation Room, would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran?
Okay, so that was a clip, and the response for Governor Walz was not in the clip. That's okay. Now, June of 2025, Margaret Brennan was interviewing Secretary of State Marco Rubio, slamming him for claiming that Iran was able to develop nukes, which just a few months earlier she had announced as a matter of fact. So here's Margaret Brennan slamming Marco Rubio. And of course, Marco's really sharp. He's sharper than a woman who was stupid enough to marry a Muslim who believes in Sharia law. So he got the best of her. Here it is.
Weaponization ambitions. Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question. They have
That is
everything
the
they need
key
to build a
point
weapon.
in U.S. intelligence assessments. You know
No,
that.
it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
the political
No, I
decision
know,
had
well,
not
I know
been
that better
made.
than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But
You
I'm
don't-
asking you whether
know
the
what you're
order
talking
was
about.
given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain, 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium?
You know, in the intelligence assessment that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold
How do
state
you know
and
what the
use this
intelligence assessment
leverage.
says?
I'm
How do
talking
you
about
know
the
what the
public
intelligence assessment
March
says?
assessment, and that's why I was asking you if you know something more from
But
March.
that's also
if
an
order
inaccurate
was given.
representation of it.
Like I said, he got the better of her. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Mark Levin, who they call the Great One. Mark Levin, who I am honored to have been able to fill in for 11 times. It'll probably be up to 60 or 70 times by now. Except that the company that signs his paycheck was the same company that let me go for refusing to get the COVID vaccine. Mark Levin, quoting our first president, George Washington, and giving the analogy about what we're doing with Iran.
If France was isolationist, we wouldn't be here. You understand, we couldn't win the Revolutionary War without France. Washington talked about the need to have alliances. And he also wrote about we need to build up a military so people know we're serious, that we will defend ourselves and we will work with our allies to defend ourselves. And get this, related to the Iranian battle that we're in now with that regime, he said, there will be occasions, my language, but he wrote it, when we need to be preemptive in what we do, that we cannot wait to be attacked. Why? Because he was a great general. He understood that.
Indeed. He was a great general. He did understand that. Now, the next guy we're going to play for you is Republican U.S. Representative out of New York, upstate New York, Mike Lawler, who has some thoughts about the attempted jihad attack. Two guys, young guys, Muslims from Pennsylvania, had IEDs and tried to blow up a bunch of non-Muslims in New York City Saturday. And Mike Lawler has some thoughts about that.
And it's not just, in this case, radical Islam. It is a hatred of American values. It is a hatred of Western democracy, of capitalism. It is the oppressed versus the oppressor ideology that we're seeing pick up. And when you see people like Zohran Mamdani, an avowed socialist, becoming mayor of the largest city in America, it speaks to this ideological hold that is certainly taking over our young people. And I think the mayor's response to this, frankly, is pathetic. He couldn't even muster the courage to call out radical Islam. He was quick to condemn white nationalism, but really could not muster the strength to call out radical Islam. In fact, it was the police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, who made it very clear what this was. This was an ISIS-fueled terror attack that really could have been very deadly. And they made it clear they were trying to go beyond what happened at the Boston Marathon just over a decade ago. So it's disturbing in this moment, especially as we approach the 25th anniversary of 9/11, that this is the world we're living in, and the response by our elected leaders, especially the mayor of New York, is underwhelming to say the least.
Okay. Everything he said was true except for radical Islam. Remember what I told you yesterday? If they hit us again, and I guarantee you they're planning to, people aren't going to be looking for politicians talking about radical Islam. They're going to be looking to people like Tommy Tuberville, senator from Alabama, and Tim Burchett and Andy Ogles, Republican representatives from Tennessee. And there's one guy down in Florida, I can't remember his name, who really call a spade a spade. It's Islam. Andy Ogles said Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. We need to send them all back. When they hit us again, I don't think we're going to have a president like George W. Bush, who 4 days after 9/11 went to the largest mosque in Washington, D.C. and said Islam is a religion of peace that gives comfort to over 1 billion people. That's not what people want to hear, because it's a lie. It's not a religion of peace. And Tucker Carlson probably won't be able to show his face in public. Okay, let's do one more. Steve Witkoff was on with Sean last night talking about the negotiations on the Iran nukes.
Told you they had 460 kilograms of enriched uranium at 60%. You and I both know that to get that to weapons grade 90% enrichment would take a matter of weeks. You made that statement public before anything happened. At that point, that was a clear and present danger, was it not? Not only to the region, but to the United States. Do you believe it was a threat?
Sean, it's a week to a week and a half away from bringing it up to weapons grade. There would be no purpose to bring it up to weapons grade unless you had or was seeking a weapon. That's one. So it was very, very clear to us that with that amount of weapons grade material, that they had every intention of seeking a weapon. It was not. So it would not be logical to us to think anything else.
Okay. My buddy Sundance over the conservativetreehouse.com has kind of a corollary article here. Just real briefly, President Trump's U.S. Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff, recently sat down with Greta Van Susteren, who knew she was still on TV, over on Newsmax, to outline the point of diplomatic discussions with Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, when things broke down. Steve Witkoff's explanation is interesting as he outlines Iran's unwillingness to even consider a cease to their ballistic missile program as part of the expanded security talks. According to President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, Foreign Minister Araghchi, was intransigent on several key points of concern, even becoming loud and aggressive as he was pushed to explain why seeking ballistic missiles would be needed by Iran. It's an interesting background perspective that gives context to the decision that President Trump ultimately reached. So if you want to take a look at that, he's got the video embedded over at theconservativetreehouse.com of Steve Witkoff talking to Greta Van Susteren over Newsmax. Earlier on the show, I talked about why it would never work for Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders to run for president. But I did say that when John Boesen retires, she might be able to successfully run for U.S. Senate. But I forgot something, and I'll tell you what it is coming up. As Doc Washburn Show continues, 101.1 The Answer.
As veterans, strangers to helping others.
It's what we were taught, trained, and told to do.
It could be for anything. Helping a friend move.
Listening to a fellow veteran for hours, at any hour of the day.
Or just simply making time for people. A neighbor, a loved one, or even a stranger.
We're often the first to help others. There's no question about it.
But we do have one question for the veterans listening.
When was the last time you reached out for help?
Perhaps it's time to do for yourself what you would do for others.
If you or someone you know needs resources, whether it's for stress, finances, employment, or mental health, don't wait. Reach out.
Find more information at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
You served behind the desk.
You served in combat.
You did 4 years and got out.
You were drafted.
You gave 20 years.
You gave exactly what your country needed.
And so did you.
When you raised your hand and swore an oath to your country, when you put your name on a dotted line, you became part of only 1% of Americans who did the same. You are a veteran.
You are a veteran.
You are a veteran. Because no matter when, where, or how you served, you made a sacrifice for your country, and you deserve support.
If you're struggling with life after service, don't wait. Reach out.
Reach out to a loved one, to a fellow veteran, to VA.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, like he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council. We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
When I met both of them, it was like my missing pieces were found. Like it was just like an instant.
It happens sometimes. Sometimes the computers get goofed up, so just go ahead and turn that down because it's not like she wants to come back in. I don't have time for her. So I recently saw a poll that said a majority of Americans now believe that the COVID vaccines are dangerous. So Arkansas Department of Health still tells pregnant mothers to get the COVID vaccine. Arkansas Department of Health. I mean, this is March 11th, 2026, for goodness sake. Arkansas Department of Health also still tells parents to start giving their children the COVID vaccine at 6 months. After all these years. And what I don't understand is, why is it not safe for the baby from birth to 6 months, but it is safe for the baby still in the womb? Come on, man. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is that tone deaf that she thinks her health department can still push the COVID vaccine, and she's keeping her name in the hat for the Republican nomination for president. Buddy. Look, it's one thing for Trump to say, hey, Operation Warp Speed was great. It's one thing for Trump to say last year, yeah, I got my booster. Because he's got a lot of other stuff going for him. And, you know, people aren't too happy with that, but they're not going to hold it against him. Sarah's another story. I'm just saying. All right, breaking news from Margot Cleveland, senior legal correspondent over the Federalist. Trump administration seeks a stay from the Supreme Court in the case halting Trump's termination of temporary protected status for Haitians. This is the government's fourth application for a stay arising from lower court's refusal to allow the executive branch to terminate temporary protected status for various countries on the eve of the terminations taking effect. This case involves Haiti's temporary protected status designation. Prior stay applications involved Venezuela twice, resulting in stays from the Supreme Court, and Syria currently pending. So if you're on X, you and you're not following Margot Cleveland, well, you're not doing it right. So Chief Justice John Roberts orders a response by March 16th. That will be this coming Monday. We try to give you breaking news that nobody else is going to tell you about. All right? Earlier today, 24 state attorneys general, led by Montana Attorney General Austin Knudsen, are calling on the Trump administration to investigate all federal funding going to the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, following reports highlighting their extreme and prevalent left-wing bias. The letter was sent to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, also Energy Secretary Chris Wright, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, calling for a full investigation into the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine's hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer funding after the organization refused to remove a client science chapter from a reference manual used by judges across the country. The attorneys general made clear that this academy's refusal was deeply concerning because the inclusion of the politically motivated, biased chapter could possibly compromise judicial integrity. In a statement, Montana Attorney General Austin Knudsen made his views very clear, quote, taxpayer dollars should not be used to fund efforts that impartially influence judges. Given multiple opportunities, this academy and NSF will refuse to take responsibility for publishing a biased climate science manual violating their public commitments and legal obligations. The organizations producing these manuals and pushing their climate agendas on judges must be investigated, and all funding for them should stop. Amen. All right, now, Jonathan Turley. I doubt you've heard about this. Whistleblower told FBI that Adam Schiff approved classified leaks to target Trump. Yes, indeed. A high-level Democrat whistleblower just blew the lid off what could be one of the biggest political scandals in U.S. history. Senator Adam Schiff, who was then U.S. House, personally authorized and directed his team to leak classified intelligence to hurt Trump during the height of the Russiagate frenzy. Well, see, that sounds like a major federal crime right there. I mean, I know. I've said it. I've also said it. I get it. And say it with me. And nothing is ever going to happen. Yeah. I understand. So liberals are upset that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has been buying steak and lobster for our service members. Gavin Newsom's press office is fussing about it right now. And this guy I follow over there on X, calling himself Educated Hillbilly, says, so not a single liberal has ever had a friend or family member in the military. That's what I learned tonight. Yeah. It's extremely concerning that the mayor of New York City is married to a woman who cheered on Hamas, slaughtering 1,200 people, raping innocent women, murdering men, women, and children. She just thought that was fantastic. Oh, and the attack against 2 Israelis outside a cafe in San Jose, California, for simply speaking Hebrew. They've identified the 3 people who did it. What's going to happen to them? The great Dave Ellswick up at 7:06 tomorrow morning. We'll see you at 4:06 tomorrow afternoon, God willing, right here on Little Rock's premier talk station, 101.1 The Answer. Let me guess, the computer still won't play. Okay. Now, question for you. But I'm not